Ladies and gentlemen, it's here, the final of Nyeri region.
We have scaled the mountains and we have gotten to the peak. Who will have the honors of hoisting the flag?
I am your host, Chris Buru.
And I am Esperanza Kapanga.
The bone of contention between our finalists is Africa is worse off with its natural resources.
We have Kagumo High School proposing the motion.
And opposing the motion, we have Nyeri High School, who will make it to the top first.
Proposer number 1, you have 3 minutes.
Africa is more than just the name we hear. It is more than just the land we know. It has a lot of resources, but unfortunately, too much of something is poisonous. Ryan Charles from the Kagumo High School, here to concur with the motion that states Africa is worse with its natural resources. So natural resources, defined according to the Merriam website, is the industrial goods provided to us by nature. While something worse is something that is more unpleasant as compared to another thing. So this motion simply means that the second largest continent, which is Africa in the world, has brought its resources. Its resources have brought more harm than actual good. So to be precise, in Nigeria, at least $400 were misspent within a period that is from 1990 to 2011. If you want to confirm this, www.bbc.com is the answer. So imagine, $400 billion were misspent. And why is this? Because we have the resources. And why is this? Because Africa is rich. But what are we doing? We are misusing the privilege that our resources has given us. We are misusing them. And now today when I stand here, actually, I'm not feeling good. Oh, I can't even believe that I'm back here to talk about this motion. It is clearly depicted. Civil wars. African countries have been constantly fighting. They have been constantly fighting to control these resources that we think are good. But why? Because they are available. But if these resources were not available, then all these would not have been there in the first place. Take an example of Sudan, South Sudan, fighting to control an oil rig. And if you want to confirm this, go to www.africa.resources.com. I'm telling you, this thing is taking us nowhere. Having resources in Africa is taking us nowhere. It is high time we realized that the truth of the matter prevails, that the truth of the matter always stands out. It is high time we realize that although we have resources in Africa, yes, we have resources, yes, we have gold, yes, we have silver, but what is it? When we have gold and we have silver, and yet lives are being lost because of this gold and silver, then there is no use for them. And the mountain still stands. Thank you.
First proposer, you have 3 minutes to make a statement.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Oweru Wanyeki from the school on the hill, Nyeri High School. Here, not to coincide with the motion that Africa is worse off with its natural resources, something that you can see, and if you cannot see, I will show you. Because he said that they are not taking us anywhere, let me take you somewhere. A natural resource is a material substance occurring naturally without human intervention. And it is not an industrial good, my friend, as you have stated here. Now, Africa is where we live. And being worse off means being disadvantageous or less fortunate. Now, let us go to DRC. In DRC in 1998, they discovered coltan. Coltan is a very important mineral in the world. A mineral that each and every gadget that you have in a CPU has it. And this one created jobs, 500,000 people, according to DRC Congo News. They said that 500,000 people were employed in the coltan mines. Let us go to the World Minerals Index, a report by the World Minerals Index in the United Nations. They say that Nigeria is the leading producer of oil. Despite the fact we know there is corruption in Nigeria, and everything must have disadvantages. And Nigeria produces 2.7 million gallons of oil every day. 2.7 million gallons of oil every day. Because, and that takes me to Ladol, which is an oil investigation organization in West Africa. It states that oil is the leading export of Nigeria, going to up to 98% of their export and participating to more than 60% of their GDP. Now, are they worse off with the oil they have? Question to answer. According to telegraph.cu.uk, they say that Africa's population is increasing by 53%, has increased by 53% since 1975. Now, natural resources, if I give examples of natural resources, we have water. Water is a natural resource, and I wonder how we are worse off with water. Then wouldn't we be worse off without water itself? Air is a natural resource. Wind is also a natural resource. Oil, and also iron, among many others. Now, when I look at the Daily Nation on 22nd of March, 2018, a report from the Tallow Oil to the Daily Nation, they say that 1.7 billion gallons of oil lay in Gamia 1 unexploited. I cannot imagine Kenya making more than 200 billion from the export they make every year, according to Tallow Oil. I can see achievement of the Big Four by Uhuru Kenyatta. I can see universal healthcare coming through. I can see it. I can see affordable housing, which is the goal of Uhuru Kenyatta. Number 3, I can see manufacturing. I can see food security in Kenya. If at all you cannot see, then I think I have taken you somewhere. I think I've shown you where Africa is headed to. If you have nowhere to go, then come along, I will take you somewhere. Thank you.
Second proposer, you have 3 minutes for cross-examination.
Do you just know where you took us? Somewhere where we can experience the curse of Africa at full bloom. And what is the curse of Africa? Natural resources. From Kagumo High School, I am Kelvin Kamau, ready to propose the motion that states, Africa is worse off with its natural resources. This motion gets me rather emotional because I love my continent, but I'm saddened by the many deaths that have occurred in our minds. Deaths that have occurred simply because 2 individuals, 2 groups cannot just decide on how to share these resources. What is the use of resources that are going to kill people? What is the use of resources will lead to people dying? Life is sacred. Once it's taken, it cannot be given. You want to believe it? South Africa 2017. This is according to the Today Africa magazine. 50 workers died when a mine crashed. Before that, 2 years before, that's in 2015, 200 workers, 200 lives, 200 parents died simply because of that. I pity our forefathers, the likes of Jomo Kenyatta, Julius Nyerere. They formed the Organization of African Unity. Their main reason being one thing: so that we as Africa can develop as a whole. We can stand united against those who oppress us, because they knew united we can. But now, look at it. Tanzania and Malawi are arguing simply because Lake Malawi contains oil and gas resources, and they don't want to agree about it. This is according to CNN.com. To make matters worse, Nigeria Today magazine recently reported that, with an interview with the leader of Boko Haram, said their main contention is the splitting of the oil resources, the splitting of the revenue. And you dare tell us this is what is going to help us move forward. I know you're going to tell us it creates employment, but what is the essence of employment when my brother is being killed? Why should I take from the hand that kills my brother? Blood money is filthy. It is hated. In Nigeria, Boko Haram has killed 1,357 people last year. The previous year, it accounted for 1/3 of all deaths by terrorist attacks in the world. What is this? Simply because of oil. Black gold. What is the use of this gold? Come join us and oppose this motion that states, Africa is better off without its resources. Thank you.
Second opposer, you have 3 minutes for cross-examination.
First of all, Boko Haram don't kill because of oil spillage. They don't kill because of oil. They kill based on religion. They kill based on who is not a Christian, who is a Muslim, who is for this religion. Second of all, we do not spit oil, we spill oil. So please do your homework well next time. A research conducted by We Forum organization, according to an article by Priska Roxilata on Tuesday, 14 September 2017, clearly states that 63% of African nations depend heavily on natural resources. So, if we were not to have natural resources, many of us would have perished by now. And to be exact, 600 million people would have perished within the next 10 years. Now, I, Austin Kabera, oppose this motion that Africa is worse off with its natural resources because we are not looking at what we are going to lose in the long run. What is going to happen when we lose water as a natural resource? What is going to happen when we lose fertile soils as a natural resource? What is going to happen when we lose minerals when we lose minerals? A research conducted by the World Bank Organization, which was posted in Washington, October 3rd, 2013, states that tourism employs around 60.7 million people in Africa. So, do you want to tell me that because we do not have this biodiversity that is brought about by natural resources, we will not have tourism? No, we need tourism. Tourism encourages our GDP to improve. Tourism encourages the growth sector. Tourism encourages jobs. Something else is, if you did not know, this helps SDG goal number 8, which is decent work and economic growth. So these people who you want to send away because they work in mines, because they work in tourism, because they work in that soil organization, where are they going to go? Will you give them jobs because we don't have natural resources to work for? Something else is that this also helps SDG goal number 6, gender equality. Tourism is one of the few industries in which women are well represented as employees and managers. And this brings me to SDG goal number 16 of peace, justice, and strong institutions. Africa is better off with its resources, but Africa is worse off with corruption. Africa is worse off with the conflict, and Africa is worse off with its poor institutions. You cannot just simply throw away a toy because it has just a very faulty part, just one faulty part. We cannot just throw away our natural resources because they are not working for us in the way they are supposed to. We should rectify the problem. The problem is not to end these natural resources because I believe until now, no one has found a way to engineer natural resources. Or have there been? No, I do not believe so. Something else is about Africa is poor, but we can try to help these people. Please, let us not embrace this. Africa is rich, but we steal its wealth. We need to make sure that Africa does not dispose of its resources.
The proposers have been asked, if the natural resources are not helpful to Africa and countries in Africa, then what else are we going to use to develop ourselves? The opposers, on the other hand, have been asked, in the year 2016, 700 billion of taxpayers' money was lost in corruption. So how sure are they that the 200 billion estimated from Gamia One oil is not actually also going to be lost in corruption? Proposer number 3, you have 3 minutes to answer the question.
I know you're all expecting me to throw my hands, jump, and do all sorts of things, but I'm here to enlighten you. My good sister, you asked a very good question. Where are these resources taking us? And let me first correct you. Kenya's main foreign exchange earner is not limestone. It is agriculture. I can't really confirm this, but I've watched news, and I don't think it is limestone, because I don't have a laptop here to confirm, but it is not limestone. It is agricultural exports. So I'll answer your question with another question. Yes, we have the resources. So I think rather, with all the resources, we should be the richest continent in the world, come on. Because according to the World Bank Global Financial Index, Africa has the largest endowment of natural resources. This is according to a report in 2016. So we should be the richest. We have the largest endowment of natural resources. Let us talk candidly. Karegawa Cairo from the Kagumo High School. And I'm here to propose the motion that Africa is worse off with its natural resources. They talked about the big four. Mr. President, if you're watching this, please listen to me. I'm a concerned citizen. Even though I've not reached 18, I want to be a good adult citizen working for this nation. I want to work for Kenya. Work Kenya, build Kenya. A report by the Daily Nation, 10th May 2015, residents of Turkana were complaining that the tallow oil company is not giving them jobs. Come on, the residents themselves cannot even benefit from the program. They talked about Big Four agenda, but how can we realize Big Four agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals? Yes, I don't disagree. But how can we achieve this without life? 10th February 2014, Standard Nation publication. 3 boys like me died in a dam. It was formerly a quarry, swimming. These people, these resources, if we don't have the technological know-how to do things, where are we living big gaps? 3 children died in a former quarry site. I want to enlighten you more. Today I'm not here to shout. Let's talk about Japan. Japan is number 1 when it comes to exports, with 787 billion. Number 2 comes South Korea, 552 billion. If you look at these 2 countries, they're not well endowed with natural resources. Actually, most of their raw materials, they export. Yet, Japan is number 1, South Korea is number 2. This is according to bbctoday.com. So, if Africa really, if these resources are helping us, why are we still living in abject poverty? Why are children still dying? Please, let us face the reality as it is. Karegawa Cairo, thank you.
Proposer, you have 3 minutes to respond to your question.
The splendor, the grandeur, and the magnificence of nature is all for one thing: to appeal the eye and heal the soul, notwithstanding. My name is George Karaoke, Nyeri High School, here to oppose this motion that Africa is worse off with its natural resources. And first of all, to the question asked, how are we sure that the 700 billion lost by taxpayers is much better than the 200 billion rather that was expected from oil in Ngamia 1? And my answer is this: we are not sure because corruption exists. Natural resources might continue to exist, but with corruption we are not progressing. Well, again, in a forum by UN delegates, it proved from 1999, on 18th of February, it showed that Joseph Kabila was able to transfer $5 billion from the government's account to the account owned by private investors. That should shock you. How comes we are continuing? Well, let us think in this way. If DRC can be able to get 5 billion, is that country not with natural resources? Natural resources contribute, but we need perfect institutions. We need ourselves to tell ourselves we need Africa to grow itself with its transparency. Again, according to noema.com, tourism contributes to 7.3% of the GDP in Africa. And for that, we can brag about the Zambezi waterfalls in Zambia. We can brag about the wild beast migration in between Tanzania and Kenya. Again, they also said of making Africa rich. Well, the thing is this: we don't want to make Africa rich. We want to make Africa sustainable. Sustainability is our core issue when dealing with natural resources, where every single citizen
every single African can be able to sustain him or herself. They also talked about corruption levels we also talked rather of corruption levels rising in Africa. And this is what we are here to campaign for. We are not going to progress with corruption levels going on again and again and again. Again, I also give you rapid population growth. Well, in an article on 18th of January 2016 on the Standard, it says by 2021, Africa's population is going to be more than 6 billion. This should shock you. Where do we expect even the natural resources to compensate, to feed all these people? Thank you.
Proposers, you have 1 minute to make a final statement.
Is it not damning that DRC Congo, according to BBC.com, has the highest number of natural resources in Africa, but whereas it also has the most UN peacekeepers in history? Wow, what a good blessing indeed. That is according to BBC.com. Now, it's time we did away with the misconception, the myth, the curse that has fallen around our minds. It is time we fought it once and for all. I am not Africa. I do not advocate for natural resources simply because I do not. And you know what? The faster we do with this, the more our chances of survival. After all, why stay with things that will kill us? It's like living in a house where you know the next second, the atomic bomb will just blow off. Let's protect our future. Let's save our continent. Africa is different. It's unique. It's not Europe. Thank you.
Opposition, you have 1 minute to make a final statement.
Ladies and gentlemen, do you know that you're standing in Nyeri High School, a school on the hill, simply because of natural resources, simply because Kenya's GDP comes, 70% of Kenya's GDP is from natural resources. Ladies and gentlemen, with corruption, yes, we accept. Deaths, yes, we accept. But again, Africa is solely dependent on natural resources. Without natural resources, then we will go nowhere. Without natural resources, then Africa will not be Africa. Natural resources is our soul. Natural resources is what we have as the only thing to handle on. If at all we want to achieve SDG number 2, if at all we want to achieve sustainability in our continent, if at all we want to attain affordable and clean energy from all the sources that we have, coal, mention them, we have to embrace natural resources. Natural resources is our livelihood. Africa has nothing else solely depend on apart from natural resources. Even agriculture, my friend, is from natural resources. Soil is a natural resource, and agriculture is also one pillar of Africa. So remember, without natural resources, then we are doomed for dead. I rest my case.
Ryan, you started by talking about the billions lost in Nigeria. However, you didn't even mention that these billions are lost in Nigeria because of what resource. All right? And I think that's where Waweru came in and talked about Nigeria and oil. You want to mention that because Nigeria, apart from oil, which is the biggest resource they have other resources. So probably there are other billions lost in other things. So you want to really be clear to what you're saying. But you're a good speaker, still very passionate, okay? And you started off with a very strong start. Kelvin, I think you came in and gave examples as well. South Africa, quite a good attempt with the examples that you gave in. When you talked about blood money, I thought you almost hitting now the point. Because now we even have blood diamonds. Have you ever heard of that? Absolutely. Why not go to the specifics and now give the examples? We were hoping that and yearning that you could go to those specifics. Then you gave the example of Boko Haram, and it was quite a straight statement when you said it's purely a war on religion. Karege, good facts. I think this time around we chose to educate us. Of course, for us, we're waiting for the entertainment part of it. I don't know why you denied us that. Nonetheless, the Japan and Korean example, good example of the levels of, I think, exports that they have. Nonetheless, you're supposed to connect it to the motion to finality by comparing it now to Africa and tell us why. back to the motion, all right? Yes, you mentioned what about Africa, but now can you give the submission as it is? Nyeri High School, Wawero, I think I've mentioned a few examples when you come to giving citations, but well done. Austin, good cross-examination. And I think I've mentioned about the Boko Haram. You talked about the World Bank research citation, well done, and SDG as well. Then you talked about women employment in this sector of tourism. It's a fact, no source given. George, good role playing. I think I didn't have much to say about you, but that was well done. All the best to both teams. We will hear the results.